Welcome back, imagination connoisseurs. I'm Lana, and this is Lana Yuen Reviews exclusively on the Burnett Network. Today, we are looking at the latest and long overdue superhero movie, The Flash. I don't watch many superhero movies these days, and it's not that I dislike them, although I do despise some.
It's Morbin time.
It's just, as a casual fan, I'm a bit burnt out. And from the looks of it, a lot of other moviegoers are too. Lately, it's felt like these films have been a bit too focused on building their multiverse rather than building their characters. And most of those films go like this. Step 1. Introduce a new cosmic villain who wants control of the universe through some MacGuffin thingy. Step 2. Hero deals with internal struggles as they attempt to figure out how to stop said villain. Step 3. At our hero's lowest point, other heroes jump in to help them discover the true meaning of Christmas. Step 4. Newly formed super friends defeat villain in an epic battle that took multiple VFX houses months to render, and thus, the day is saved. But is the day really saved? Guess what? It's not. And now we're in an alternate universe where that guy who just died is now alive. Left is right, up is down.
Human sacrifice, dogs and cats living together, mass hysteria.
Everything is the same, but like a little different. Wow, it's so cool. So cool how it's like almost the same, but like not. And when it comes to what I've seen of the DCEU, it just hasn't clicked with me. In fact, it's hard for me to remember which films I have seen. I think someone made me watch the Justice League. Wait, is that the one where Batman gets in a mech suit and fights Superman? Or maybe it was Man of Steel. Or is Cyborg the Man of Steel? Huh. I did see Batman. I did see The Batman. That was really good. Yeah, so there's that.
I don't think that's the DCEU.
What do you mean it's not the DC? Anyway, after hearing all the extremely positive buzz around this movie and knowing that my theater serves alcohol, I figured, why the hell not? I mean, Tom Cruise and Stephen King both loved it, and have they ever steered us wrong? The Flash stars Ezra Miller as Barry Allen, Michael Keaton as an old and grizzled Bruce Wayne, newcomer Sasha Calle as the intergalactic emo superstar Kara, and Michael Shannon's badly composited digital face as the villainous General Zod. The film is directed by Andy Muschietti, whose most recent claim to fame was the remake of It, Chapter 1 and 2, which were actually quite fun, but mostly due to Bill Skarsgård's creepy smile. Worlds collide when the Flash uses his superpowers to travel back in time to change the events of the past. However, when his attempt to save his family inadvertently alters the future, he becomes trapped in a reality in which General Zod has returned, threatening annihilation. With no other superheroes to turn to, the Flash looks to coax a very different Batman out of retirement and rescue an imprisoned Kryptonian, albeit not the one he's looking for. And before we flash forward, this is your last chance before entering official spoiler territory. It was a bit of a mixed bag for me, but I think there's plenty of fun in here for most comic fans to enjoy, especially if you're looking to see Michael Keaton in that cape just one last time. So let's see if this movie has what it takes to go the distance. Having only seen The Flash in the Justice League, I remember finding his character a bit annoying and forgettable. But with this movie focusing on his tragic past, it was good to get his origin story and actually feel something. Yes, it is another dead parent story, but it felt unique with the context of his wrongfully accused father trying to clear his name. And I especially enjoyed how they threaded it into the main time travel story arc. Again, this isn't anything we haven't seen before. Just swap the canned tomatoes for the sports almanac, switch the superpowers for a DeLorean, and change the younger self's name to George McFly, and yeah, it's Back to the Future, baby. Hell, they even have a running joke about it throughout the whole movie. Yet, even with all these similarities, it plays as a fun homage to other time-traveling stories that came before it. This film is all about fun. It does have a few emotional moments, mostly with Barry's younger alternate self in Supergirl, but it's much lighter fare compared to other recent DC films. In the opening alone, we have Barry attempting to order a cinnamon roll, a baby being shoved into a microwave, and Barry proclaiming his virginity to Wonder Woman. Even if you're the biggest curmudgeon, you'll probably find something to laugh at. I mean, did all the jokes land? Oh, God, no. But I appreciated how from the start, this movie wants nothing more than to entertain you. One thing that took me by surprise was just how much Keaton's Batman in Supergirl stole the show. I'm relatively new to the Keaton fan club, but like many others, he is absolutely my favorite Batman. Wait, scratch that? Pattinson might be my new favorite Batman, but Keaton is by far my favorite Bruce Wayne. He had this weird, mysterious way about him that others just haven't been able to capture since. His eyes screamed, "I'm trying to hold this shit together!" And he could blow up at any moment. And he's right back with that same energy he had back in '89. That was 34 years ago. Even as a bearded recluse, when he first talks to Barry, it's like he never lost a beat. His mannerisms, the way he delivers lines, the intensity of his stare, it's all there. And when he does don that suit again with Danny Elfman's original theme playing in the background, it gives you all the feels. And he looks amazing. Like in his early 50s. Whatever fountain of youth Keaton is drinking from, I need some of that shit. Having zero knowledge of Supergirl, other than thinking she's just a female version of Superman, I was really impressed with the very little time we got with Kara. Besides having the second coolest costume on set and the best emo hair of the film, she was a fucking weapon of destruction. I found it really compelling that she possessed all of this power and had zero intention of acting violently. But when she finds out Zod's dark intentions and the fate of her cousin Soups, she says f it. You could really feel her anger and her sadness as she was confronting Zod. She was pissed, and I loved every minute. Now I'm hoping we get a movie that's focused on this Kara. I'd love to see what her personality is like when she's undercover, like Clark Kent. Are you listening, James Gunn? Do not recast her. Do not. As for the ending, I actually think this movie wraps up quite well. We get a great emotional scene with all the berries that I wasn't expecting, and that whole extended sequence of him reversing the damage he did with his mother was very moving. When he gently rests his cheek in his mother's hand and says goodbye, even though at the same time I was like, who just lets a stranger put their face in your hand? I did think it was a very fitting wrap to Barry's story. And an emotional cherry on top. Oh, and that last cameo where Barry says, "What the fuck?" might be my favorite swearing moment in any comic book movie ever. Ezra's take on Barry was very mixed for me. One moment he'll say something cringy, and the next make me laugh. Again, I know his motivations for being this way. I'm just not an Ezra fan. On or off screen. I will say, however, that when things get more serious, Ezra does do a great job, especially those moments with Barry's mother and the later scenes with his multiple selves. Seeing him teach his younger self how to use his new powers like an older, caring brother was very sweet and quite endearing. But once one of them cracks a joke, depending on whether it lands or not, just yanks me right out of the moment. And it's not just Ezra. The movie itself leans a little too much into cartoony humor. You get Barry holding a frying pan over his junk, grabbing a hot dog as he speeds by a pedestrian, even running in circles and slamming into a wall and falling over. Just add cartoony birds flying over his head. They even add little bits of humor into things that really don't need them. When he first brings his love interest back to his apartment and closes the door, his closet's full of bachelor trash just begin to pour out in Rube Goldbergian fashion. It's already so over the top, but then a digitally added Jack-in-the-Box pops up and out of frame. I get it, he's a relatable, messy bachelor. But a Jack-in-the-Box? Why? Now I'm wondering, why can't this movie just focus on Barry himself? 80s Batman and Supergirl, they really don't need to be here as much as I like them. It's like the studio got scared that The Flash wasn't marketable enough for general audiences. We need bigger, more well-known characters to put those butts in those seats. Oh, and you know what? Let's throw Batfleck and Zod into the mix. Just make those Snyder fans happy. Feels too crowded to me, much like most comic book films these days. Have we not learned by now that less is actually better? The biggest negative when it comes to the VFX is how disjointed it feels switching between live action actors and digital doubles. I felt like 90% of the cool moments by any of these actors was actually done by their digital counterparts. Take, for example, the Batfleck scene. From the opening shot, you can blatantly tell that this is not Ben, or hell, it's not even a real set. Everything just moves too artificially. When he leaps into the air and slides across the street dodging cars and defying physics, some of us audibly sighed. Stylistically, I understand that the Flash's speed vision was meant to look hyper-stylized rather than realistic, which works for more of the humorous sequences. However, when every other action scene looks just as brazenly digital, it just doesn't hit right. When we do get to the final battle with Zod, it looks just as fake. The green screen is so apparent. It's like TV weatherman giving the weekly forecast level of bad. There's just no thought given to actually blending the actors into the setting, other than throwing a color filter over the whole frame. It was also hard to follow just where all the characters were. I mean, like, physically. It could have been the desert setting with no visual landmarks, but I just couldn't keep track of the action. Batman's over here, the Flash twins over there, Supergirl's like doing her own thing. It felt like all of these fights were individually choreographed and then just kind of haphazardly stitched together. And from what I've read about the production, that very well might have been the case. Barry confronting his evil self should have been the focal point of the climax, and yet the movie instead barrages you with nostalgia. Barry is coming to terms with his inability to affect the future, but wait, there's Nick Cage! There's old Superman! My god, is that Supergirl? No, really, is it her? I actually don't. It's too much. The CG characters do nothing but distract you, and once again, pull you away from Barry's story in his own fucking movie. Overall, The Flash feels very conflicted on what it wants to be. On one hand, you've got this great director with a surprisingly interesting story, but the end product is a bit messy. We get tone, humor, and style that is jumbled and constantly at odds with one another. Yet, if you're a comic book fan, you might be able to look past these things and have a really great time. Even with all these criticisms, I still think there's a lot of fun to be had here. So what did you think of The Flash? Where would you go if you could time travel? Or when would you go? And do you think that Eric Stoltz would have made a better Marty McFly? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. And that's it for now. Be back in a flash. The Flash stars Barry Allen, nope. Newcomer Sasha Calle? Newcomer Sasha Calle, my hands are doing weird things. Should have been the climax. Nope, I just want to say climax so bad.
Could say, would you go back in time and date your mom?
What?